Hello, and today we're looking at how to paint an old one on Carnosaur. So first of all, you want to spray your model black. I usually use the sprays from Citadel, and now we're just using some Vallejo white to create some highlights and do a random pattern, like it is in one of the books for Lizardmen. Um, So yeah, just trying to do a rough pattern. It doesn't have to be neat. Once we sort of blend it together, it should look a lot nicer. So for the rider, we're just using a French blue. We've obviously done the same highlighting process as we did with the Carnosaur. And now we're moving on to Jacaro orange. So I ended up thinning this down, and what you're doing is just putting Jacaro orange on all those parts that you've done a white highlight on the Carnosaur. I think it makes it look really cool. I was really pleased with the result, actually, to be fair. I do think that I still prefer my Croc Carnosaur, but you know, this guy's going to be like second in command, so he'll have to do. So for the throne, we are just painting that sea grey from Vallejo, and then we're doing the horns beastie brown. So we're just doing that as like the first layer, I guess. Or I guess it'll be the base equivalent from Citadel. But Beastie Brown is from Vallejo. You don't have to be particularly neat with it at this point, but it does help to try and get as much control as you can on the model. So for the throne, we're just doing a highlight of barley grey from Vallejo. And we're also doing the same thing with the belly of our Carnosaur. Just we started off with the sea grey, and now we're moving on to barley grey. And we're just doing the underbelly of the model. Here we have also moved on now onto doing a light grey from Vallejo. And we're almost using that as sort of like a highlight, trying to leave some of the previous colour that we've already applied. Here I'm just touching up some of the parts. I ended up getting some of the greys onto the model, so I just ended up touching it up in places. And I think I also added a little bit of white afterwards to the underbelly, because I thought, well, it needs to be a little bit lighter, so let's add a bit of white to light grey and just do one final highlight under the belly. So the shield, we're following the same process, and we're using sea grey followed by a highlight of barley grey. Ah yeah, here's me touching up the model again. I thought it could do with another touch up to make the black stand out a bit more. So I've just used a Baden black just to sort of, bring the black back up, because, I ended up getting some overspray onto it. So yeah, I thought it was necessary really. We're also doing a highlight on the throne with some light grey. And we're doing one final highlight on the shield with light grey as well. And here we're using Xandri dust on all the strings for our Carnosaur. Not forgetting about our rider, we ended up doing the underbelly of the rider with light sea blue. And the feathers we're now just highlighting with white, followed by a fire red all over. You just blend it all in together and you get this nice cool red effect on the feathers. So I thought the shield could do with another highlight really, so I ended up adding a bit of white to light grey and just doing one final highlight on the shield. All of the golden details on the Carnosaur as well as our rider, we're going to be using Retributor armor. It's a nice rich gold, especially really good for Lizardmen, I think, because, you know, they've got gold everywhere on all of their details. You know, old ones really have blessed them, haven't they? So, yeah, just make sure to take your time with it. You don't want to be getting any of the gold on the blue parts here, for example. On the red, it's just going to be a bit of a pain to touch it up. But don't worry if you do. You just, you know, use the previous color and just go over with it, over where you ended up, you know, messing it up. The teeth and claws on the rider, as well as the teeth on Carnosaur itself, we're using Xandri Dust, followed by a dry brush of Tyrant Skull all over our Carnosaur. So it's just to bring out those scales, make them look, you know, a lot more, give them a bit more depth. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And here I'm just using the Baden Black and just working that colour into his weapon. All of the golden parts, like we've done with our previous projects, we're using Reikland Flesh Shade just to shade all those parts in. An alternative that you could use, I suppose, if you wanted to, would be Agrax Shade. Just make sure to thin it down a little bit. For the tongue of our Carnosaur, we're using Screamer Pink. And here I'm just doing a recessed shade on the shield, trying to be really careful. And here we're using Norn Oil. So here I'm now using some Agrax Earthshade. I ended up thinning it down because I thought it was initially too strong. So I thinned it down and then put it all over the teeth and claws of our model. The base was dry brushed with Tyrant Skull. And then after we've done the dry brush, we're just going to be applying some tufts and some flock, yeah. So working further on the strings, we're just using some Xandri Dust. I'm not really sure why I didn't do it at the same time as I did the teeth, but I think I was still deciding on what colour to do them, so I needed to do the rest of the model first to then see what colour, you know, I'd do those strings. So the claws that we're working on here, I have used Rhinox Hide from GW. Once again, I've left it, you know, till after, because I wasn't sure really what sort of shade of brown I wanted for them. There's a couple of plants that I have on this base. I think they're from the Croxigore kit, and I've just used Death Guard Green, because it's a nice strong green base colour that you can use. So here we've thinned down some Agrax Earthshade, and we're just putting that all over our string that we've done earlier, all over our Xandri Dust. The eyes of the Carnosaur, I've used Calidor Sky, followed by a highlight of Light Sea Blue from Vallejo. I thought the black could do with a bit of a highlight, so I went, right, well, what's the quickest way of doing it? Use a dry brush. So I've used some Dawnstone from GW and just dry brushed that all over the black bits that I've had, and I've sort of tried to blend it in with the orange a bit as well, as much as I could anyway. So the highlight for the claws, I have used Doomball Brown. We also ended up using Doomball Brown on the string. There's a couple of string bits and bobs on the rider, so we've used that. Now we're moving on to highlighting the teeth, and we used a Shabti bone for that. Gone back to Tyrant Skull again, and ended up dry brushing all of them string bits to make them, look a little bit better, because highlighting that would just be a bit of a pain in the backside, to be honest with you. On the plants, I've used a Thonian Camo shade, just to shade them in. And now we're moving on to working on the gold. The way I do the gold is pretty much the same in all the videos at the moment. It seems to work for me. I like it, I enjoy doing it, I think it's quite simple and I think it works. There's probably better ways of doing it, but it works for me, so that's what I end up doing. First highlight that we're doing is going to be Auric Armor Gold. And then the second highlight that we're doing on all the golden parts will be Liberator Gold. And the way you're doing them highlights, you just want to make sure to leave a bit of the previous colour, showing, so you get a nice and smooth highlight. On the back, of the scales and everything, we used Gulliman Blue for our rider. And then the final highlight on the gold, we're using Stormhose Silver. I thought them little triangles needed a bit of a shade, so I went back to Nuln Oil and just did a light shade all over those triangles. I thought the shield could do a bit of, I could do a bit of more work on it, so I did a dry brush of Longbeard Grey on it, and it really, really brought it to life, I think. The rim of the base, we've used Abaddon Black, and we've just done that as the last step. I think this is the only time where I've done the base as the last step, otherwise I end up rushing it and doing it way too early. Thanks very much for watching. Give us a like and a subscribe would be really appreciated. Thank you.